I think in our culture, we like to celebrate stories that have very happy endings. The majority of people don't have that kind of ending, and there aren't enough books for us to show us how difficult reunion, reconciliation, forgiveness actually is. I think it's really important to actually examine the relationship that you have with your family members, and to do that requires the bravery to go outside of those roles. My mother abandoned me when I was 8 years old, and I didn't hear from her, and I didn't know where she was for 20 years. 20 years later, I found her by accident on the internet and contacted her to reunite and find out what happened to my mother's story. So I wanted to find a way that my story could help other people also reflect and think about their own mixed emotions and difficult relationships in their lives. I think that a book is actually the optimum way to do this, because a book allows you to stop and reflect and really go through an interior journey of the same incident over time. Writing the memoir was a journey all of its own, very different even from the turbulent time that I spent with my mother in Brazil. And in fact, during the trip, I experienced a second abandonment of her. So when I went back to rewrite the memoir, I actually had to go through all of our fights, all of our miscommunications and miscues, all of our awkward conversations, and all of the very painful memories that we both had playing in our heads like a movie reel throughout the entire trip. Brazil is an amazing country, but it's full of contradictions. On the one hand, it's a very beautiful country, but it's also very dirty. It's a permissive country, but it's also quite oppressive. And so as I was getting to know Brazil, I'm also getting to know my mother as Brazil. She wants me to see the beautiful things that she has to offer me, but at the same time, I'm living through all the contradictions, the more painful elements, that underbelly that she doesn't want me to see. My mother has lived in film for the last 20 years as a fantasy escape to forget that she abandoned her husband and her children. And so when I encountered my mother, I encountered film. This memoir, every chapter is framed by a particular movie. So using films in this book is something that has been central to my mother's life as well as my own, my mother to escape and me to understand. It is a form of projection, but it is a form that we use every day when we don't have that person in front of us. I think this book will appeal to both mothers and daughters and anyone who has some difficult relationships in their lives that are important to them. I also think this book will appeal to people who live with multiple cultures and religions and are trying to sort through what parts of that identity to take into their own lives. We all need to work out what to do with all of this conflict, and I think that the outcome can actually be quite positive.